Morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our regular board meeting of Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. And if everyone would please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to open the public forum. The board welcomes public attendance and comments on district matters. This section is reserved for items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or take action on these items, but values and considers all input. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Matt Griebel, and my wife Pilar and I live on Marshall with our 2 young children who are 4 and 7. Our house is basically as close as you can get to the planned raw water storage pond. We purchased and moved into our home in September 2024. Since that date, we've had no official communication from TUD unprompted. Gadiel has been very responsive to email and answering my questions, but no representative from TUD has reached out to discuss plans, issues, or concerns without my engagement first. Some time ago, I was surprised to suddenly see someone in my backyard, later learning they were just surveying property corners. It would have been nice to have some communication from TUD about this planned operation, so as not to be concerned by a stranger walking so close to my home. Then, a couple weeks ago, we received a very callous letter from a lawyer representing TUD, asking us to move some play equipment and fenced trees that are technically on TUD property. Without any previous communication or request from TUD, the letter threatens legal action, potentially even criminal prosecution, if items aren't removed within several weeks of receipt of the letter. Although it is an inconvenience, we have no issue moving the items since they aren't on our property. However, the method of request was unneighborly, harsh, and wholly unnecessary. I could understand if I had previously ignored or challenged a similar request from TUD, but as a first line of communication, it seemed rather insensitive. 2 large cedar trees fell in my backyard in last week's storm that are technically on TUD property. Do I need to contact a lawyer and threaten legal action to get them processed? No, I plan to reach out to TUD and ask if I could process them myself to keep the wood to heat my home, like a neighbor would. The TUD board seems to talk a big game about communicating with neighbors, engaging us for comment, input, and feedback for what will be a rather disruptive project in our backyards. However, it seems that it's only talk, and your actions are telling a different story. I'm disheartened, and I hope that our relationship and communication can improve. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, board. Good morning, board. My name is Mark Brooks. I'm running for District 2 Supervisor against Ryan Campbell this year. I've had to deal with a few of your employees in the past, and I've got nothing but great things to say about them. They're all really courteous people. I'm just here today to learn about your budget. I heard you guys work miracles with a really small budget, so I'm just going to act like a sponge and absorb as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Randy Ray, Twain Hart, Dogwood Drive. That storm 3 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago. Big one. Took out the lady's house on South Fork with the mudslide. All that mud went down into my yard, clear in Dogwood. Because you guys got an emergency gate that you could open up and drain off the whole ditch. And the first time, it was almost 4 feet of mud. Fortunately, my 1-ton truck, the mud didn't get all the way to the dipstick. And there was a pile probably 15 feet tall. of debris and snow, and it was a lake formed. And then the very next night, you guys drained it again. Fortunately, but you guys didn't open the ditch, filled it. You guys, this was just from rain and snow building the ditch back up. You guys had problems up the way. You drained it again. Fortunately, it cleaned a lot of the mud away. FEMA gave me $300. I reached out to them because you guys didn't come in and clean nothing up. And then this year, Tuesday night, I leave my neighbor's house and I went, it sounds like a raging river out here. I look over the deck, his house shares half the ditch, the ravine as my house. And I could see this huge, from like him to here wide, took all the snow and all the debris, plugging up the culvert, and then all the snow and everything flowed out onto dogwood. Now there's like at least this deep of literally sloppy snow, like a 7-Eleven Slurpee, that deep. So you can't move anywhere with that. And at that night, when I walked down, I jumped over and the water was almost up to my knee going across to get back to my house. But then I tried like hell to get you guys to reach out, to talk to somebody, to plow. That's all I want you guys. I know you guys got to clean it. You got to drain the ditch in an emergency, but at least respond downstream. That's what I really want you guys to respond by cleaning, taking a loader and take the debris off the road, dump it off the side. That's it. That's all I care about. Otherwise.
Okay, thank you.
Task. That's it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public forum and bring it back to the board. Melissa?
Okay, consent calendar. Item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of February 10th, 2026. Item number 2, resolution adopting the revised public records policy. And item number 3, reject claim for damages, claim number 26-01, Sharon Butler, claimant.
Okay, so any board member want to pull an item? Seeing none, I do want to pull item number 3. I'm not going to ask any questions on it or anything like that. Stay out of trouble with Melissa. But I do want to say that I did a little research on that item, and I would dearly love to have a conversation with the insurance company before they get involved in looking at and evaluating that issue. So I'll leave it at that. So with that, bring it back to the board for action.
Just to tag on to what you said, Ron, on the information given to the board, I didn't see any attachment. There was a reference to on the claim form about an attachment. I didn't see anything about that. So
There was an attachment on there.
okay, I must have missed it. Sorry.
No.
So I will. Okay. Anyway, I move that we accept the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Melissa, please.
Okay, regular business. Item number 4, fiscal year 2026 mid-year budget review.
All right. I'm up. And it looks like the technology is working for me. Let me just do one last thing. Okay. Well, I'm here today to present our mid-year budget review. And one of the things that I like to do when I go through any type of budget presentation is to go through the budget cycle. I think everybody has probably seen this by now. I was looking back and I thought, well, maybe Director Reel hasn't seen it, but I think this was the meeting where she was appointed last year. So you may have seen it, but I don't blame you if you don't remember this from back then. So I thought I'd go through this one more time. But part of this is just to actually go through kind of our process as far as when we're adopting budget and kind of our process throughout the year. And I apologize, sorry, I've got to get my technology going again. Apologies. All right, there we go. Okay. So as part of the budget cycle, we kind of have, I'm sorry, I'm having issues today with this. Yeah. Thank you. There we go. Get this. It's only the third time I've done it. So anyways. As part of our budget cycle, the first thing that we kind of go through, which you did back in June, is adopting the annual budget. And when we adopt that annual budget, we essentially refer back to our budgeting policy. And some of the things that we state in there are kind of the things that I'm highlighting here. So essentially, the annual budget is prepared in accordance with the current budgeting policy, and it's the planned spending document. And it's essentially our primary goal or our target is to provide the highest possible level of service to the district customers while maintaining a sound financial condition. And that's a direct statement from our budgeting policy, which I love. It's the highest possible level of service to our district customers while maintaining a sound financial condition. So I feel like that's a very balanced approach to our budget. The board approved annual budget document, it provides the spending limits by fund for the fiscal year. So it provides the spending limits for both water and sewer for the fiscal year. And several goals within the policy are to keep, and you see this here, current expenditure less than current revenues. And by doing that, it results in a net income, which is total revenue, less our operations and maintenance costs, less our debt service costs, and less our capital projects funded from rates. Our goal is to keep that greater than or equal to zero. So that's kind of our target when we're adopting the budget. And so we did adopt our budget, our fiscal year 26 budget back in June, and with those targets in mind. And essentially, we did adopt a budget with that target and with that goal, and we did accomplish that goal in adopting the budget this year. The second part of the cycle that we go through in the budget process is review. And so the staff do this every month. Every month, we look at budget versus what's happened so far, what's happened through that specific month. And this happens at the manager and superintendent level, and we're monitoring those spending levels versus our budget. Then we also prepare financial reports for you, to the board, to see quarterly. And then another part of the review, which is where we are today, is mid-year projections. So at mid-year, although staff, we are looking at it monthly, we really dive really deep at mid-year, and we project what we think our revenues and expenses are going to be through the end of the fiscal year, and then we report it to you, the board of directors. So that's essentially what we're doing today. And then the third part of the cycle, I'm sorry, it keeps kicking me out of PowerPoint. So I know, it really did. Yeah, let's see. Okay. Sorry, slight pause.
Hi, Jesse.
I just send it to you, Abby. See how it's kicking me out.
Fill the space.
Thank you, Dawn.
So no surprise that, and everybody's aware of the circumstances we're in, Baltimore County wide. Now the county issued a declaration of emergency, local emergency hazards, and, so right now we have I don't know, 40 to 50 folks out there in the field and a lot of support staff trying to mitigate all the stuff that's going on our side of the plume. So a lot of people putting in a lot of hard work. We have a very well-seasoned staff, right, with a lot of knowledge. This isn't the first time we've been through this sort of an episode. This may be the most impact we've ever seen, especially just to the main canal. But that, again, that's kind of PG&E's role. But you got a lot of folks out there, including in here, making things happen. So fortunately for us, the weather is cooperating. We're getting a good amount of runoff that's going in the right spots for us. It's not inundating us at all, but it's yielding enough water for us to kind of hold our own. So besides that, Eric's got all kinds of contingency plans to move water, around, haul water in where we need it strategically. If the natural runoff runs dry, and or B, this goes longer than we planned. So we have more early daily meetings with our staff, just kind of checking with everybody. And Eric's got several meetings with different people from Cal OES, Cal Fire, and then the PG&E folks. So he's got several meetings every day. Everybody's working together. All our partner agencies, everybody's working hard and working together. There's a real sincere, genuine interest on PG&E's part to make sure that our customers don't run out of water. So really appreciate those folks.
I think this is where the emphasis on education for safety and teamwork is really starting to show through.
Yeah. Thank you. Ready?
All right, I think we're back. See if Abby's computer does me better. All right, so as I was saying, where we are today is mid-year projections, but this is the part of the process that we go through throughout the whole year. And then at the end, we essentially have the final results. So we compare, once June 30th is done and we've closed our books, we compare our year-end actuals to budget. I do a presentation to you with those preliminary results. And then we have our annual audit, which confirms those results. So anyways, but today we're at mid-year review. And so as I mentioned before, staff have taken a really comprehensive look at our operations to date, and we're comparing it to the existing budget and then presenting it to you what we think our projections are going to be for the rest of the fiscal year and where we'll end up at the end of the year. So one of the first things that we look at is revenue. And I put detailed spreadsheets in your packet that have all of the numbers in it. Today, I'm just going to go through it very broadly and give you just really big bullet points. But first, looking at revenue, where we're projected to be at the end of the year compared to budget. And water, we're expecting to be just slightly better than budget, about $240,000 better. Sewer, we're expected to be about $468,000 better than budget. And this is based on our actual receipts that we had year to date through December. And then I project for water specifically our anticipated consumption for the period February through June based on what our consumption was for that same time period last year. So it can still change between now and then, but that's kind of our best guess at this point, is that if our customers use the same level of water as they did last year, this is where we would end up based on what we've been like in the first 6 months and projecting what those next 6 months will be. That's essentially what we're anticipating at this point in time. Now, giving a little more detailed look at revenue, some of the things that I want to point out of all of the different segments of revenue that we have. First, just to explain this spreadsheet, this first column is our adopted budget and the various types of revenue that we have. So you can see the $30 million in utility billing revenue, property taxes, investment revenue, and on down the line. This is the yellow column is what we're projecting to be at the end of the year, and then the difference. And some of the things that I want to point out for this projection of revenue, and just to note, this is water and sewer combined at this point. But our utility billing revenue, which is our largest segment of revenue, we are really projecting to be right at budget. So, I mean, it's barely different. You couldn't get much closer at this point. But again, that is based on projections that can change because it can depend on water consumption for the next 6 months. And another thing that I wanted to note as well, I think the first year I did mid-year budget review with you, I kind of gave an analysis because we've had our rate increase of where, when we did our cost of services study and when we adopted those rates, what the revenue would look like with that rate increase. And it is slightly lower than what we anticipated with the rate increases. So right now, at this point in time, our rate increase study had projected that we would be at about 30.9 million in revenue. And we're not quite there. We're about $877,000 less than that. So we really kind of knew that way. It's been maybe 2 years ago now. And so we made some adjustments, kind of some budgeting strategy adjustments. And we've had some other income that has helped supplement that difference. But just to keep you informed on that is still projecting that way, that it is less than what our rate study was projecting we would be at this point in the 5-year rate increase process. So just to keep you in mind with that. But for this specific year, we've been knowing that we've been adopting a budget with that little bit less than rate revenue than what we were anticipating. And for this year, we're still projecting to be at about the same amount that we adopted our budget at.
So, in trying to anticipate what's going to happen in the future, with all this, whatever you want to call it, going on back in Washington, the unknowns from the tariffs and cost increases and so on, do we have enough wiggle room for the projects we've got going on for all the equipment and things that we need in order to make those projects come to fruition without breaking the bank?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm going to be doing, so this is the spoiler alert, is is the last board meeting in March. I'm going to present 5-year forecast, 5-year projections for you with a lot of those anticipated projects in them.
Great.
And so this doesn't show that at this point in time, but that is the plan, is to present that to the board at that time and a 5-year outlook and what that's going to be.
Great, thank you.
The other thing I was going to highlight, because we are projecting to be better than what we budgeted as far as total revenue. And the main contributor to that is right here, is our investment. So we were budgeting about 581,000, and I budgeted somewhat conservatively on that, just not knowing what was going to be happening in this year. But if we continue our investment income at the same rate we have the first 2 quarters of this year, if the interest rates stay the same, and they've been holding fairly steady, they're a little bit lower, but we will be at about $1.2 million in investment income. So that's really, the net increase is 630,000 and really makes up most of this better than budget position of 700,000. So that's essentially where we're seeing that better than budget position is in the investment income.
Question?
Yeah.
Do we see that investment income as sustainable, or is it
It's
kind of iffy?
It's kind of iffy. Essentially, the last 2 years, maybe 2.5 years is when interest rates started going up. But that had not been seen for more than a decade. So most of our money is in LAIF, which is the state where special districts, counties, cities, whatever, they can invest their cash that they have. Previous to that 2-year period, these last 2.5 years, for over a decade, the interest rate had been about 0.23%. It had been really, really, really low. So really never anticipated much in that area. And so it's just been this last 2.5 years that we've seen that increase. So maybe it's sustainable. It's just hard to know. But hopefully we have a decade at these types of rates. I mean, they're still not, you know, it's 3-4%, still not huge, but it helps. And it's helped in our instance for sure. Then moving on to operating expense projections. So the expense forecasts here are based on actual expenses through December. And then we do various types of analyses and conversations that we use to project the remaining months of the year, January through June. So that's what this is based off is our actuals through December and projections of January through June. And water is really right at budget is what we're projecting. We're projecting $1,500 under. So really we're right at budget. And a big disclaimer is that we did all of this before last week. So just an FYI. Sewer, we're projecting slightly higher as being under budget by about 214,000. And so then if we combine those back together and look at some of the reasons and look at the details behind those big picture numbers, and where we're seeing these is our under budget positions where the various line items, personnel, we're looking at about $205,000 under budget. And that is the big one that I'd like to say the disclaimer on of that was before last week when we're having this incident and lots of overtime costs. So that may or may not come to fruition, that under budget position there. Repairs is about 28,000 under, and it's due primarily to this year we were able to reduce our equipment rental rates because we bought some equipment instead, and so not having to rent as much equipment. And then the biggest contributor honestly is utilities, which sounds shocking because we never think of utilities as going down. But our electricity costs are under budget because TPPA, which is they provide most of our electricity, they actually reduced their rates this year, and they reduced them after we had already done budget. And so we're realizing that savings, and that is less than what we actually budgeted because they reduced their rates. Yeah.
They give us any reason why they reduced those rates?
Yeah, so and this is a good question because I don't expect it probably to continue in the future. They had reserve money that had been building up. So they kind of built that into their rate structure for this year.
Yeah, well, good, because we'll burn through that probably here.
Yeah.
A quick follow-up on TPPA. You know roughly ballpark what our annual expenditures with TPPA are? It's rough numbers.
Oh goodness, that's a good question. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Sorry. It's one of our top 10 for sure. Yes, it is our top 10. The over budget, the main contributor is our general and administrative costs, which includes the main contributor to that sector being over budget is our general liability insurance went up pretty significantly this year compared to last year. And so that was somewhat unexpected for us. We didn't have that in the budget at the beginning of the year. So that is tracking to be about 156,000 over budget. So those are kind of the contributing factors. But all of that to say, with the under budget and the over budget, we're still expected to have a projected decrease of about 215,000. What I'd like to say with that is that's a very tiny percentage of our total expenses. So really it's almost like we're at budget, essentially is what we're projecting. So looking kind of at the end result, this spreadsheet was in your packet, but you can see, I don't know if you can see it very well. But this is again, our adopted budget, the first column here, our projected and the difference. This first section is revenue. And what you can see here is that we are projected, as I already mentioned, to be about $708,000 better than what we budgeted, mostly due to investment income. You can see that our operating expenses, we're also projecting to be about $215,000 better than budget. So really that's a net gain of $923,000. So it looks, we've got a little wiggle room this year, which I'm thankful for considering this last week. So, and that was them together. When you look at just water's looking at about a $242,000 gain. You can see in graph form what it looks like in revenue. I mean, as you can see, when you see it in graph form, you really can see it's really, we're right at budget essentially in both revenue and expense. And sewer, we're seeing about a net gain of $682,000. So it's slightly better than the water fund. And then the last thing that was in your packet and that I show here, which is really difficult to see, but this is the status of all our CIP projects as of the end of December, what we had spent at that point in time. And that's essentially the end of work.
I noticed thank you very much. Great job. The CIP I noticed was about 2 million less than we had projected. I'm just wondering, are there any projects that we should know about that maybe got put on fell behind or something?
Not that they fell behind only in this sense that we have timing in the fiscal year, unfortunately falls right in the middle of construction season. I've kind of explained this before. So there are these projects where it's always difficult to get a contractor to finish the last 10%. Like they get to 90 and then got to pull teeth to get them to finish. So that reflects some of that timing. What I do want to point out is that we have on that schedule, the capital schedule, a number of grant funded projects. So we may have $10–20 million when you consider Sierra Pines and others that we're working on that aren't reflected in that dollar amount. So yeah, we have, as you mentioned, about that 2 million that's unspent, but we will plan to spend that as we get in through fall and next year. It's just a slight lag.
Well, I'd just like to say, great job as usual. Thank you for staying on top of it the way you do. And I just want to remind the board that we're at the halfway point. Things could be drastically different by the other half.
Right.
So let's just keep our fingers crossed everything stays copacetic. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay, Melissa.
Accept and file.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion then to accept and file the mid-year budget review. I'll second it.
All right, there's no further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Now, so
Okay. Item number 5, update on district operations for January 2026.
Hey, good morning, board. Thank you again on behalf of Eric Hall and the operations team and others contributors. I'm going to present the operations report for January 2026. And in light of what's going on currently, January 2026 seems like a lifetime ago. So it's hard for me to really focus in and report to you, but this is in fact what happened in January. It doesn't look like it today. So I'll be brief. Abby's gonna, we didn't rehearse this again, so she's just gonna try to keep up with me. I'm turning the page on the raw water division. Again, it's hard to imagine this would look very different for February as it does January, but nothing out of the ordinary for raw water in the month of January. Some normal routine things. You can see some pictures on the next page of some of the
I got a
work.
question on page
Yeah.
2, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Phoenix Lake Tower inspection and dam by the state. How did it go? Yeah.
Very well, as usual.
So the tower is not the leaning tower?
No, we don't.
Phoenix.
He just kind of looks at it and we make sure, so the tower inspection is they exercise the gates on the tower to make sure that they operate.
Okay.
We're still working on a plan to dive or use our underwater drone and metal thickness gauge in some different spots on that.
Okay.
Just to see what's going on there.
Great. So it's still standing. That's what counts. And then also on page 2, there's notation there about ditch leaks being repaired. The Gibbs leak, I got it. You had a picture of it. There was a patch on a pipe, which I don't understand a pipe in the, that small for the ditch, but that's another whole thing. How were the ditch leaks repaired?
Those one, let's see, the Table Mountain, I believe, was repacking sidelines and some gunny sacks. The Shaw's Flat one, I might have been a hand patch on existing shotcrete.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Don?
Well, while you pause there, I go back and forth on the wording on these ditch leaks fixed. A lot of times they're not fixed, they're temporarily stopped and they're reoccurring maintenance items to go back and continue to stop the leaks, right? Just the nature of the game, the way we have to deal with the.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, back to page 3 here, some pictures of some of the work that the raw water division was doing, including using a small excavator to pull a big boulder out of the Shaw's Flat loop. Interesting. Next page, water supply, yeah. Whatever we said in January doesn't mean anything today. The real boss showed up. Yeah. Water treatment, again, nothing really to report here, nothing out of the ordinary. The demand, everything looks as we expect. That's why Carolyn was referring to the budget as far as she's projecting part of the production. So it's pretty much what we.
You got a question if you don't
Sure.
mind? Page 7. New Maloney's pump station run 2 days. How was the water quality?
It was very good.
Really?
The nice thing is the reservoir had quite a bit of water in it, and that's why we started it when we did, so the mixing would be better.
Right.
But the water, no issues over there with that.
Okay. But we're down to 1 pump, right?
We're down to 1 lake pump, which is down at the tower, and then, yeah.
Is there any,
No.
that's what I was afraid you were gonna say.
Although I happened to have a conversation, and you might have started this, I'm not sure, but Pete Campa over at Groveland had this thought to tell me about some pump company before I had my head on my shoulders. And I think he is telling me, you might have had a conversation with him when in passing, but he has a company called Don Pedro Pumps. It's not Lake Don Pedro, it's someplace else, but they're called Don Pedro. They may be able to help us out with that lake pump.
Oh, that would be great.
So I've been
Great.
meaning to tell you that, but we've been busy. But
And also, the water the ditch water that's we've arranged to get to experimental mine road properties, all that's still copacetic, working good, no problems, helping those folks out. Great. All right. Thank you.
I just thought it was interesting. I'll also note here, safety training, cold stress. Good thing we got trained on it because we're using the training, putting the training to use today. Turning the page, a couple more pictures showing some of the work there. You can see water flowing into the Matlow Reservoir. See a reservoir weir for the Matlow. Lower left-hand corner, you see the Peaceful Pines tank and partial demolition. It's now completely down, and other
picture there, you see the temporary tank in place and operational before we took the old tank off service, offline, and it's in some stage of whatever, construction. That's the word I'm looking for.
So can I
Yep.
ask a question there? On the Peaceful Pines, tank, I know that that was one that desperately needed to be replaced. And as you've got a picture up there, we're well in the process. Is there room for a backup tank? That property?
No, there's not.
Be
The new, what's that?
because
It's private property on the backside, Caltrans easement. The other side, I know Nate's talked to Caltrans a little bit to see what we could do there to get some extra property, because that's where we were gonna do some things. We ended up making the tank a little bit bigger. So we'll move forward. You know what I mean? It's not out that we can't eventually get property from Caltrans to do some things there,
Okay,
and an extra well, secondary, a backup.
that would be nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
We're still thinking about it. Just because it didn't happen now,
Okay, thank you.
Got a question?
Yeah.
So is it like just, we have like a quarter of an acre or something like that there? Is that all we have? It's not big, I'm sure.
40 by 40.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's easement.
yeah.
Okay, so you don't even, so TUD does not own that. Okay, well, all right, well, good news is we got rid of an old tank, so
We've got
scratch
a few
another one off
years.
the list,
Got
yeah.
a few
Okay.
years to make it work.
Good.
Turn the page to 9, distribution division. Again, today's very much different than a month ago, but you know, they did start the annual flushing of fire hydrants in order to clean out all the sewer water mains. Matt and his team for the last several years have done an outstanding job of standing on the gas, to use your phrase, Director Ringen, and get this completed before the end of spill, long before the end of spill. So this is slowing down that effort, but once they're done with this disaster, they'll get back on that and probably get it accomplished before the end of spill, which is good for us. Next page, they're keeping track. It's kind of a duplicate there, but you can see a lot of CIP projects in progress. Much of them are tanks, the Gibbs tank and so forth, Peaceful Pines, Chaparral, Valley Vista, Upper Cedar Ridge tanks, tank will be a tank. So lots of progress being made there, thankfully, desperately needed. The next page, interesting picture there. That's an unfortunate side of a tree. Thankfully, just leaning on our almost brand new tank there at Michigan, or the old Zone 2 tank. So, but no damage occurred there. Maybe some paint. Yeah, so. See, turn the page.
Just one
Yep.
comment on your CIP page there on page 10. 7+ years I've been on this board, and it is really a good thing to see this many CIP projects on the docket and being taken care of, because it wasn't always that way.
It's not.
So I know it's an obvious thing for us here, but still it impresses me every time, and I just wanted to give you guys a shout out on that. Getting stuff done, and that's a very good thing.
Thank you. It starts with board support. So we appreciate having the support so we can do the hard work. Appreciate it. Construction maintenance, as far as overall leaks, it's down probably half of what it was the months prior to, 17 or so. So not quite as busy on leaks, so they could focus some of their attention on some of the CIP projects. We do a fair amount of this tank exercise, tank stuff with our own crews, getting the pad ready for the construction and then the plumbing too. So it was nice to have that. You see some more work there. We'll turn the page here to 14. Some pictures. This is a construction maintenance crews work. You know, they did a hill sewer lateral repair for Rich in the collection department. They installed a new butterfly valve at the Monte Grande water treatment plant. That's at red. Upper right-hand corner, that's a red actuated butterfly valve on the package plant. They also installed a new metal roof on the Sonora water treatment plant building, installed some sample stations, installed a yard hydrant. So we got caught up on a few of those. When they're not fixing 30 to 40 leaks a month, they can get caught up on this long list of projects they need to do also. So,
I've got a question.
yeah.
On 16, Fairgrounds Sewer Lift Station. 2 times we had to go down there and clean that thing out and get it fired back up, the lift station. Is it time to put a grinder in down there? Why is it with county stuff, we always have all these problems with, oh, and down there we had a beanie that's clogged up the pump one time, then we had a pair of underwear the second time. Is it time for a grinder?
Yeah, they are kind of grinder pumps. Obviously, there's different styles of them that are in there. So Rich and I talk about this all the time, and this is the first time in a few years that they've had any problems down there, but it's time to do more research.
You know, there's different schools of thought. You know, remove it the way we're removing it when it happens, or you can grind it up and leave it in serves and have the wastewater treatment plant people remove it. Somebody's got to remove it, right? So
Yeah, but it's always, the crew has to go down, and sometimes it's maybe after hours, overtime. And they shouldn't have to go get the thing
there's
fired
a lot
up.
of things we shouldn't have to do, but you know, it's the nature of the business. I mean, we have 27 of those things, so
I guess it would
we gotta-
start with not putting your underwear down the
right.
down the road, huh?
somebody make a note of that. Okay. Left out the size 36 Fruit of the Loom. Where was I? Edna 16? Yeah, well, we just talked about that a little bit. Again, pretty routine month for the collection staff for January. Although today they are offering assistance to the disaster at hand while their primary focus is on the collection system. They're offering assistance to the bigger, better team to give some guys a rest, guys and gals a rest. So nothing important to write home there. Same with wastewater treatment, pretty routine information there, nothing alarming. Quartz is at probably getting closer to average depth now, so we don't anticipate any issues with quartz getting too full of reclamation water. So we should have about enough to deliver water. We'll see as we get closer to the end of the year. And then finally for me, education and training, Rachel Taylor, who works in Trevor's department in regulatory compliance, achieved her grade 2 distribution certifications. Proud of her and happy that she was able to do that. And that's the end of that report.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. I don't think we have to file that, do we? Excuse me? Oh, okay, yeah, thank you. So, but we do need to hear from the public if they have anything to say on that item. Do we have anyone that would like to approach the board with anything? Seeing none, we'll close it and go back to Melissa.
Okay, item number 6, Coach's Corner, 1983 PG&E Tuolumne Water System Agreement.
Yeah, like I said, Eric's, and just so you know, this is the coach's corner, but I was going to really lean on my assistant coach down there to help deliver this message. But I'll do the best I can. He has to step out at probably right before 10. So, we'll get through it, Eric. I'm not going to go quick. I'm not going quick. So this is an important and timely discussion. What we refer to all the time, you know, the 1983 PG&E agreement. It's an agreement that we've been working with since then. It was first adopted or owned by the county, who 8 years later gave it up. But Eric Hall in particular probably has more experience in working with this agreement than any other person at TUD for sure, and probably all of our other previous agencies like the county and TRWD. So he has lots of vast knowledge. This is just 3 pages of points that are important of a 44-page document, which if you guys want a copy of that, you know, Abby can get you that. So we'll dive right into this. I suppose if you want to stop and ask questions along the way, you know, go ahead. So the 1983 agreement documents the sale of the Tuolumne Water System by Pacific Gas and Electric Company, or PG&E, to Tuolumne County, and establishes long-term water supply obligations from PG&E to support continued public water service. All rights and obligations under this agreement were later transferred to TUD when the district was formed in 1992. So just pause there for a minute. You know, think about where the county was before this agreement. They weren't in the water business. They didn't have a water treatment operator, they didn't have a distribution operator, they were, and I'm looking, you know, hindsight. I was here, wasn't paying attention. I was just getting out of high school. So they were ill prepared to be suddenly in the business of water, treating and delivering water. So that's just a side note. The purchase price was $900,000. Again, in all retrospect, you know, the county paid $900,000 to receive $200,000 deferred maintenance, the way I see it. Assets conveyed, there were 3 water systems. The Sonora water system, Jamestown and Tuolumne, included treatment plants, treated water distribution facilities, tanks, reservoirs, equipments, vehicles, permits, contracts, and the entire lower half of the ditch system, which included 14 ditches, Section 4, Eureka, Roaches, Soulsbyville, Columbia, San Diego, Matlow, Phoenix, Shaw's Flat Loop, Table Mountain, Aldrin, Kincaid, and Montezuma. All totaled 70-some miles of combination of open gravity ditch, some pipe segments, some flume segments, some lined, some unlined. Okay. Assets retained by PG&E. They retained ownership of the main Tuolumne Canal, Lions Dam, and the hydroelectric facilities. Public utilities. Upon closing, Tuolumne County assumed all public utility obligations associated with operating the Tuolumne water system. PG&E was fully relieved of its public utility responsibilities related to the system after transfer. The system was conveyed as is, no warranties regarding the condition. PG&E agreed to provide ongoing untreated water supply to the system after the sale, consisting of a base supply of 10,000 acre-feet annually, water stored in Lyons, natural flow of the South Fork of the Stanislaus River below the Philadelphia ditch diversion, side water inflows to the main canal and ditch system, which is happening today, thankfully, and base supply. The base supply excludes PG&E's required fish releases. Supplemental supply, this is where Eric really comes into play. So if you have questions about supplemental supply, start asking. Additional water release to the county's request or TG's request when after Labor Day is needed, as needed, includes both free supplemental water supply and or purchase supplemental water. Annual free supplemental water is determined by a formula tied to a water type year and the flows out of Goodwin Dam. Is there any questions on that piece? Eric has to take off. Eric's not going anywhere. He'll be back. You can ask him some questions later on today. We're gonna be cozy all day long. So
Yeah, just maybe expand on what's meant by that.
base supply and supplemental supply.
So the base supply is like a guaranteed amount of water, and that's We usually don't use all of our base supply every year. We get up close to 10,000, but usually in different types of water years as the snowpack's different and things like that. It's kind of stuck when our clock starts or when we're using the base supply. We don't start using supplemental supply until after Labor Day, when we can pull water down from Pinecrest Lake. So, and again, like Dawn said, that's on a formula based on water year type that PG&E does. Then we also look at and communicate, make sure we're on the same page with that. And again, it depends on how the water year starts out, is how much supplemental supply we get throughout, usually till December. And then we start getting rain and snow and then it stops.
Give us two extremes, a really wet year and a really dry year. Well,
Okay, so a really, really wet year, base supply stays the same, but I think we could get as little as 0 supplemental supply. I think the lowest I've seen, it's like 350 acre feet. A really dry year, the most we can get is 9,500 acre feet, I believe, or so, which we have seen.
water use and operational limits. Water may be used for domestic, municipal, irrigation, industrial, and limited power purposes. PG&E retains operational control over its hydroelectric facilities. PG&E and TUD coordinate water deliveries that do not interfere with PG&E's power operations beyond the agreement limits. PG&E may curtail deliveries for maintenance emergencies subject to notice requirements. I think today. Financial terms, charges or credits applying depending on amount of base supply delivered to or conserved, amount of supplemental water used to conserve. Again, those are questions for Eric. Maybe Eric Johnson might know a little bit more about that if you have some specific questions. For base supply, a set credit value is earned if TUD uses less than 6,500 acre feet. For supplemental supply, rates are indexed to power value regulated by CPUC. Annual billing and reconciliation required. So once in a while, randomly, I'll get a check from PG&E for some number of thousands of dollars. I go, what the heck's this for? And I used to go to Glenn and now Tony and Eric, why do I have this check? And to my knowledge, we never cashed any of those checks. We sent them back because we disagree with their calculating. We don't want to have to get that money back. Is that about right?
We may have inadvertently cashed 1 or 2 of those, I think, but generally speaking, when PG&E gives us a check for that excess, we would rather have that water sitting up in Pinecrest. The value of the water is peanuts versus the security of having that water in Pinecrest to bring down if we need it. So general policy is pay us, just hold it in Pinecrest, because as soon as they pay us, they can use it, run it through Spring Gap.
Okay, water rights and legal constraints. No South Fork water, Stanislaus River water rights were transferred, so they retained all of the water rights. County and successors agreed to not assert any new riparian or appropriative rights against PG&E. The agreement expressly preserves PG&E's existing water rights. The county and now TD retains the ability to pursue county of origin, water or New Bologna reservoir entitlements. Think CVP. We've been working on that for a number of years for a long-term water contract out of Maloney's. Conservation drought provisions. Agreement includes voluntary and mandatory water conservation plans. Mandatory conservation may be triggered by water type year. If we go, if we had to go to a mandatory conservation, it takes a special board meeting or a special item and a public hearing and all of that. So management just can't say we're going to go into mandatory conservation. It takes a act of the board. Agreements, importance and performance. The county received 3 months of operational training from PG&E after closing. That was an interesting note. The 83 agreement is the foundation to use surface water supply. It provides long-term access to base supply and a formula-based supplemental supply. It establishes ongoing dependence on PG&E's infrastructure and operations. Think today, making coordination and compliance critical to system reliability. This agreement has been operationally sufficient and PG&E has been a great partner to date. That's the end of that. That's a summation. Abby was able to put that summation for me together, 44 pages of total. I think it's, you know, there's a lot of information to gather there. I don't expect you to be resident experts now, but you can refer to this document, you can think about things and give Eric Hall a call and ask him some clarifying questions. But yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you for this report. Yeah, I think it's really timely. And it's good to know what we're up against, what we're, I don't want to say governed by, but this is what we have to deal with. Let me put it that way, day to day. And I just want to repeat that right there at the top, it said 1983 PG&E Tuolumne Water System Agreement, long before TUD. And this is something that we, meaning TUD, acquired when the county put the vote up to put TUD into place. So this is just one more thing that we, along with that, you said $250,000 worth of deferred maintenance. And I
Million.
think it was much more than
Million.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been behind the 8 ball ever since TUD was formed, trying to get ahead of that. So,
yeah.
At any rate, thank you very much for this report.
You're welcome.
Any questions from anybody? Yes, please.
I just got a couple comments. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. You know, when we meet with water customers, you know, in the grocery store or at a meeting or whatever, you know, quite frequently, people will mention, well, you get this free water from PG&E. Okay, well, this right here tells you, if you look at it and read it, that water is far from free. Not only did the county pay $900,000, that's the actual monetary value, but the county and then eventually TUD took on 70 some odd miles of ditches. That alone, right there, the expense that we go through every single year to maintain those ditches, and in situations like we're in right now, that's the cost of our water. That's what it costs to deliver. That's the main cost of our water to our customers that TUD as an entity has to pay for. So that water is far from free. And then you throw on the deferred maintenance that Don's talking about, you know, all those old tanks and old systems and old pipelines and everything else that the county and then TUD inherited. And that's what our CIP is paying for right now. We're replacing all that stuff. So I could go on all day on this subject. This is my little pet peeve thing that I like to get off in the weeds with. But the main thing is our water is far from free. So please don't think it is. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? And I will open up to the public. Anyone have any comments or questions or anything? So step up to the podium.
John Buckley speaking as a ratepayer today. I've learned to recognize when I'm going to share something that's not going to change any of your views, because I've learned over time how strongly you believe. And with due respect to Jeff, the water supply is free. The delivery of the system that you guys manage is where all the costs come from. You are not paying for the water. TUD is negotiating to take over the PG&E facilities, even though there is no legitimate threat. At this time, to TUD's water supply, only speculations. As Don just reviewed with the 1983 agreement, which I have in a folder back there, TUD has a perpetual binding contractual agreement that assures water to TUD and its customers with zero costs in most years. It's a great deal for TUD ratepayers. The contractual water supply agreement providing water is not only recognized by the State Water Board, which I deal with frequently, but the FERC is also firm in defining that water supply from the South Fork is a FERC priority, and 2 FERC hydro licensing processes, the state and federal agencies and PG&E all fully agreed that water for TUD customers is a priority mandate. Both FERC licenses assure that having TUD receive its water supply in both the Spring Gap and Phoenix projects will continue as a priority. So despite no actual risk to water supply, the speculative application or acquisition would come at very high cost to ratepayers, people like me and all the families that are already paying a lot for water. TUD at a previous meeting, Dawn and staff estimated, this was 2 or 3 years ago, that each family would likely end up paying $1,000 more per year for the first 5 years to pay for the acquisition and the takeover. But there could also be tens of millions of dollars of other unexpected costs, not if, but when the aging dams and facilities degrade, burdening TUD ratepayers far into the future for something that PG&E has responsibility for now. The ongoing attempt to take over PG&E's facilities is based on the misconception that acquiring water rights and facilities somehow equals more water or security. In reality, TUD ratepayers would be stuck with the insecurity of potentially being forced to pay millions of dollars to maintain money-losing facilities. So in closing, as a TUD ratepayer, I'm simply sharing the perspective, which I understand is not going to change strongly held views, that you do not take on the financial burden of PG&E facilities when each and every way the contractual agreement provides water for low or no cost from PG&E. And if you disagree and you decide to continue to negotiate to get it, I urge you to provide an online poll so that TUD customers can weigh in as whether they choose to pay an additional many thousands of dollars for water acquisition or water supply due to the acquisition of PG&E facilities. Let the ratepayers have a way to have a voice in a decision that will affect them far into the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, is that, can we can make a comment back?
Can I or not?
Is it copacetic?
It's agendized.
You can make brief comments.
Okay,
Absolutely. Brief response. Yes.
Thank you, Justin.
No action. Yes.
Thank you.
thank you, John. And believe it or not, I agree with you on about 90% of what you just said. If PG&E, there's no doubt that for the ratepayer and TUD, in my opinion, that PG&E has been a fantastic partner. And if they were to keep these assets, I don't think there's any benefit for TUD to get involved and take over these assets and this infrastructure. However, PG&E has said that they're going to divest themselves. And that's where I have the issue, and that's where you and I probably disagree, is that if PG&E truly is going to divest themselves of these water rights and this infrastructure, then I believe, my opinion, that it is in Tuolumne County's best interest that TUD get a hold of those assets.
Okay, thank you. And let's leave it at that, because after that, we need an agenda item, I think. All right, yes, if you have a comment or.
Is TUD planning on taking over Lions Lake Dam responsibility? Kind of like, I went on a field trip early 2000, and they were all big shots of PG&E, all the water people of the state were on the field trip. It was one of those water conservations. I was bored to death. So I went on them. The bottom line is that lake is 90 foot tall depth. And back then it was like 52 feet of silt in that lake. So Lions Lake is not that deep right now. It's quite shallow. It's got an awful lot of silt. And I know your guys' little South Fork there at Sierra Pines, is that going to be the kind of like the alternate water supply for the county while they, one of the two, dredge out that lake? What are they going to do about that? It's got to be dredged. Drained down.
We're not going to field questions. This isn't the appropriate time to field questions, but if you want to just continue with your statement, please do. We're not going to field questions.
Oh, anyway, that's the key thing, and I walked it for now. I walked below it. I noticed there's an awful lot of maintenance need to be replaced beams. I'm one of these kind of like, I'm looking up that structural, knowing how much weight a water takes, traveling across that canal. So I rode the bike from Lines when I was 12. All the way down, one board.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to address the board on that item? Okay, if not, then I don't think we need anything on that, so I will bring it back to Melissa.
Okay, staff reports.
Wednesday, I shoveled snow. Thursday, I shoveled snow. Friday and Saturday, I shoveled ice. So aside from that, but like I said earlier, we've been awfully busy with coordinated meetings with PG&E, Palm County OES, CAL FIRE, and others to mitigate and get through this thing we're in right now. So that's kind of the end of my report. Thank you. That's how I feel like. I'll stop.
Don said it. I don't have anything to report.
I think you've heard enough from me today, but just to reiterate, we are planning a 5-year projection in the March board meeting.
Great.
Other than staying in close communication with PG&E and the county on messaging during this disaster, just a couple of reminders for your board. We have the reclamation luncheon on March 25th. You received an email. Please RSVP if you'd like to join us. And then also we'll be at the Home and Garden Show in April 18th and 19th. So please let me know if you'd like to come and sit with the community for that as well. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Okay, I guess bring it back to the board. Start with you, maybe.
Okay, 212, we had a regional wastewater meeting, happens a couple times a year. In the past, it's had Jamestown, Twain Harte, and TUD, and this time, for the first time, we have Tuolumne and Groveland in addition. We have mutual assistance agreements that seem to be working very well with all the groups. It's saving people money. Each of the groups is now doing pipelining projects on the sewer lines to, because it's a fairly low cost or lower cost way of saving old pipes. But we're all doing separate contracts. So there's been ideas from President Ringen and General Manager Perkins for a couple of years now, the idea of maybe getting joint powers agreement together or something like that and set it up so we can have larger contracts, save money for each of the groups. And that's pretty much everything.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Let's see, just briefly, I know we got a full schedule today, so I'll be brief. We have some news from the Federal Affairs Committee. I received an email. Some of you may have already received this also from Justin Caparuso with Mountain Counties. There is he just said that on behalf of the Legislative Committee, I'm writing to invite interested members to participate in a newly formed subcommittee that will explore the potential development of a federal advocacy program for the association. So just want to bring that to the board's attention and would recommend that we participate in that. That's it.
Okay, on February 11th, attended the Twain Harte CSD meeting, at least the first part of it. There was a Tuolumne County supervisor that presented, and I wanted to hear exactly what was going to be come down from that. It was rather interesting. I guess that's a good way of putting it. 212 attended and participated in Regional Wastewater Committee meeting, which Director Hollis just gave you an update on. 213 attended and participated in the Mountain Counties Water Resource Association board meeting. And a lot was covered there. I won't take up a lot of time on it, but pretty much we trying to get all of our ducks in a row for the new year. We did our mid-year budget review. Also, we went through the policy principles and the bylaws, which we decided not to make any changes in, leave everything just as it is. And there's CARB, Advanced Clean Fleet Regulations Roundtable coming up. And I'll give you more information on that as it comes along. But I think, Don, that they're really working on those people hard so that they make them aware that their ideas just are not going to work up here, at least right now, until there's much better availability of heavy duty equipment and things like that.
Right, there's a good coalition of Mountain County agencies such as CCWD and others who are coordinating these interviews with people on the board, the CARB board, and these folks are making the trip up from wherever they are to the mountain region and seeing firsthand with what we're dealing with. Can you imagine trying to deal with this thing up there with electric trucks, electric backhoes? It just wouldn't work.
Right.
They're getting up here and they're paying attention. So we're making some ground there. So thanks for bringing that up.
Right. And 218 had a meeting with GM Perkins about the agenda and TUD business issues, of which we have plenty. 27 attended the Master Gardeners Day. Now, this is something I used to do all the time. And I attended for several different reasons, but usually it's the underlying reason is I want to hear what they got to say about water, and it always comes up. So just want to let you know that when it comes to TUD, it's the agency that everybody loves to hate. You cannot grow anything with TUD chlorinated water. Were you aware of that?
I don't know, my weeds grow pretty good on that chlorinated water.
Not only weeds, my fruit trees grow really good, and I don't taste any chlorine in the fruit or vegetables or anyway. That's it for me. So bring it back to Melissa.
Director or President Ring, we have one more report out from Abby.
Oh, we do.
Sorry, we just forgot something.
I
Oh,
We're a little
apologize.
crummy.
I did.
I wonder
We've
why.
I wanted to let the board know on Sunday, I did send an email to Brixton Lane from Congressman Tom McClintock's office, just summarizing the situation that we're going through now. You know, we were up there with Congressman McClintock in the fall looking at the flumes at the Sierra Pines property. And, so he kind of had his amazement of, the high wooden flumes and that the majority of our drinking water supply comes from that 95% of it. And so I followed up with that. I haven't heard back yet, but I just wanted to let you know we're engaging them and letting them know what we're up against up here as well.
Thank you very much for doing that, because when we had him up here, that was one of the things that he was in total amazement of, because we showed him that short section of flume there at the golf course, and it was like, kidding me.
How does that work?
Yeah. Okay, with that, then, did you have something?
I did. I just wanted to thank you, Abby, for doing that, and also suggest that we include the two U.S. senators in addition to Representative McClintock, so we have all the federal officials on board.
Okay, and I guess with that, we'll bring it back to Melissa.
Okay, closed session. Conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property APN 085050001 et al. Agency negotiators Don Perkins, Jesse Barton, and Tom Johnson. Other party to negotiations, Mike Schoner and Seth Perez, Pacific Gas and Electric Company. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment. Item B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, one case. And item C, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, agency representatives Don Perkins and Abby Parkon. Employee organization, Northern California District Council of Laborers, Construction, Production, and Maintenance Laborers, Local Union Number 1130.
Wow, that was a mouthful. Good job. Okay, before we break into closed session, I would like to open up the public forum. If there's any questions, comments, well, I don't know about questions, but comments or anything about the closed session. Otherwise, we will. Okay.
John Buckley again. I've already spoken. I won't take up time, but just one response back to Jeff is if the legitimate concern is when PG&E divests, there is no assurance that there is a customer or a purchaser of PG&E's facilities. They're money-losing facilities. PG&E's been upfront about it for many years. And one option would be for TUD, if you strongly believe you want to take over in case someone else is going to do it, would be to wait to actually take the action of purchasing, have it set up, but not take the action until there's a years-long process of transfer from PG&E to another entity, because again, engaging in FERC licensing, I know that these processes take time. So I'm just sharing, there is an option there that would cover the concern you have, and Dawn has raised that concern in the past, is if it goes to someone else, there might not be the legal security of that contract agreement. I've checked with attorneys and they disagree, but I understand you have Jesse and others who will support. But the option that could be a win-win would be to only take the action to commit TUD ratepayers dollars and long-term expenses and liability for the facilities if in the case that there's actually a transfer that is moving through the process, and have it ready to go in that case. But I just ask for you to at least consider it. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? And if not, then
I think Jesse, you still there?
Yes.
Is this a good time to announce to the public that there will be no actionable items coming out of closed session?
yeah,
That way they don't have to wait around to see if we did something.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah, the report still needs to be made, but no actionable items will be recommended or even suggested during closed session.
okay, thanks. So be it. And with that, then I would probably suggest that maybe we take a 10-minute break until we start our closed session.
Oh, no, it'll be, thank you.
See you later.
It's gonna be more than 10. We're gonna take a 30 to 40-minute break.
Oh, is that,
And then
okay,
then we'll come back. Closed session.
okay. Is 40 gonna do it?
Yeah, we'll be back at 11.
Okay, then we'll take a 40-minute break
See you at
and
11.
it's to 11, okay.